Here we have our panelists. We have Rick Marin, who actually sold 2 movies off of his Kindle singles. We have Lane Shefter Bishop, who is the head of Vast Entertainment, and she purchases properties, book to screen. We have Alexandra Sokoloff, who's amazing. She started Writer Action, and now she's publishing, and she's done both traditional and indie publishing. And we have Lee Goldberg. You remember him from last time. He's phenomenal, and these panels bring you such great luck, right? Last time you had just gotten the deal with Amazon for like 21 books, and now he's publishing and writing with Janet Ivanovich. And he's starting an imprint. We have Susan Rohrer, we've just met recently, but she's amazing, and she's another WGA member who has a ton of books. Noel Hynd, who is a best-selling author and also WGA member. Noel's actually one of my formative influences on writing. The first book I read of yours was Ghosts, and I loved it. And, of course, Beth from Audible, who we all love. Yay! Do you guys want to quickly go down the line and say how you got into this world of that you're in, indie author, book to screen, working for Audible?
Sure. I need that.
We may be sharing some mics.
All right. So it's fairly simple. I started my career as a journalist. I worked at Newsweek, New York Times, and then I wrote a memoir that got published and optioned by Miramax, and then I got into the TV business. So I've been working in TV for a while, and there was a show I wanted to do, or an idea I had for a family show, and I thought the best way to sell it might be to have some underlying material, meaning publish it somewhere, then sell it off of that, as opposed to just selling off of a pitch. So I'd done a few pieces, magazine articles, spoken word things, put together a book called Keep Swinging, sold to Kindle single, then Warner Brothers optioned that. We developed it for ABC. It's not on the air yet. But I kind of came at it backwards because I wanted to sell a TV show, and I went backwards and said, well, maybe I should create the underlying material first. And a Kindle single is a great way to do that because I've published books the traditional way, and it takes a long time, and it takes a long time to write it. It takes a long time for it to come out. A friend of mine describes it as the storm before the calm. It's all this work to get the book out, and then the book comes out, and it's like, okay, crickets. So whereas Kindle single, you write it, you upload it yourself, you give them your bank account information, and then it's there like the next day, and people start reading it and responding to it. So I thought it was a great way to develop some material as opposed to just working up a pitch to try to go in and sell it to a studio or a network.
Wow. I was a lit major a million years ago before I went to USC Film School, so I've always been a book person. And when I started in development, I just ended up finding that you really could get people's attention a lot more if it had underlying material. And also just a higher rate of return. I could read 300 scripts and maybe 2 of them I could set up. If I read 300 books, probably 50 of them have enough material, enough of a basis that I could turn it into a TV show or movie. So it was such a higher rate of return. I went back to books, and we did a deal with Sandra Brown and ABC Family, and then I went off on my own, and I started Vast Entertainment in 2009. And we only do book to screen. So it's literally, a lot of times people will bring me screenplays and other things, and I'll say to them, go back, go do a book proposal. 85% of what I set up is from book proposals and partials. Hasn't even gone to a publisher yet. So, because I also found that you really don't need the whole book to sell it, because so much is going to change in that adaptation process. If I can say to them, look, there's a really strong hook, there's great characters, there's a great story, here's a 50-page partial so you can see they can write, I'm done. So it was a real eye-opener, and in the last 5 years now, I've set up about 30-something projects, 32 projects, all based on books, and most of them book proposals and partials, not even full books, not even books that have gone to a publisher yet. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Oh, and if anybody's interested in submitting, I'm going to give you the submission information right now. To Lane, submit a log line and one-page synopsis max. Only book or book proposals. Put WGA panel in the subject line. And the email address is info, I-N-F-O, at vast, V-A-S-T, slash entertainment, dash entertainment, and y'all should know how to spell that, .com. Okay? Info at vast-entertainment.com, and the dash is the line, not the word dash. No, not the underscore, the hyphen. And if you look up Vast Entertainment on the internet, you'll find it.
Yeah, just put WGA panel in the subject line so it doesn't end up in the pile of submissions from the world.
Just a
Log
log
line,
line?
which is usually one sentence, and a synopsis that is no longer than a page.
Great.
Okay. I'm Alexandra Sokoloff. I was Alex Sokoloff in the Writers Guild, and I just want to underline right now what Lane just said about more books being set up than scripts, because when I was on the board of directors here, that's what I saw month after month, and it really got me thinking that more projects are set up as more people join the Writers Guild on books, more projects are more set up on books than on scripts, and it's something that we as screenwriters really need to understand. Statistically, we've got a better chance by writing the book first. So, that being said, that was something that made me think about writing a book, but really I was a screenwriter for 10 years doing novel adaptations and selling spec scripts until I snapped and I wrote my first novel off of a script that I got back that had been set up by my perfect director with my perfect director attached. And when that fell through, and I was also in the development hell project from absolute depths of hell, I realized I had to do something else, especially seeing one-step deals come to the forefront. And I just thought I needed to make a living some other way and also get things actually produced in my own way. So I took that script and I wrote a novel which sold immediately to St. Martin's Press. I did 4 books with them, traditionally published, and by that time e-publishing was rising, and I was seeing people, friends of mine like Joe Conrath, do really excellently, and I saw the numbers that you could make e-publishing, and I thought, that's what I need to do next. So I did that. I studied it for a year before I actually did that. I got my backlist back, which took more than a year, and now I have 10 books out, just finished the 11th, some Big 5 published, some indie published, and I'm going back again because my Huntress Moon series, which did really well as a KDP, I published it on Amazon and made great numbers on it. Now, Thomas and Mercer, Amazon does track. They were watching my numbers, and they came to me asking for the series. So I'm going with their mystery thriller imprint because Amazon is the farthest thinking publisher out there. There's just no one like them. You saw the way that they think about reading intuitively. And so that series is launched as a trilogy in the fall, and I'm working on another one that we'll see if I indie publish or traditionally publish. But it is the greatest time to be an author.
I just want to, can I just chime in on the numbers for a second? Remember they had the Hugh Howey graphic up here? Because I did track indie author numbers for a few months, and Hugh Howey was one of the indies reporting it. And what surprised me is he wasn't at the top of the list. There were indies who were actually making more, and Barbara Freedy and Bella Andre just announced at the London Book Fair that they're making 8 figures a year, not 7. Yeah, so it can be insane. And Lee is our next
I was going to
guest.
pick up, by the way, I'm Lee Goldberg, for those of you in the other room who can't see us, only hear our voices. I'm going to pick up on something she just said. This is the greatest time in the world to be an author, because you can be an author in so many different ways, and I'm a perfect example of that. I'm going to step back a little bit and tell you a little bit about my history. I broke in as a TV writer and screenwriter by writing a novel that Hollywood optioned and hired me to write the script. And what I did throughout my television career, and I've written, produced hundreds of shows, is I kept writing books. I wrote standalone books. I wrote 8 books based on my show Diagnosis Murder. I wrote 15 monk novels, and I wrote standalone mysteries along the way. And I also was very good about getting my rights back when those books fell out of print. About 3-4 years ago, you're going to hear this name a lot, a guy named Joe Conrath, friend of both of ours, called me up one day and said, Lee, you should really self-publish your book, The Walk, on the Kindle. And I said, that book was a bomb. It sold 3 copies to me. That was it. I've got 100 copies sitting in my garage. Who the hell is going to buy it? And he said, well, I always loved the book. You actually sold 4 copies. I bought one. And you should just put it out there. It won't cost you anything. Just put it up. So I just put it up on the Kindle. And this is very early days. I think the cover I did on Microsoft Word, And I think the first month I sold 15 copies. Then the following month, 50 copies, then 100, then 200, then it's like, wow. I pulled the book off. I had it professionally edited. I put a new cover on. To make a long story short, I've sold, I think, about 150,000 copies of that book since then. And I then self-published my entire out-of-print backlist, and it did extraordinarily well. And I thought, there has to be another way to utilize this format beyond republishing my old crap. I mean, my old great books. So coming from episodic television and being a fan of old men's action-adventure series, I decided to create, with my partner William Rabkin, a Kindle book series called The Dead Man. And Bill and I wrote the first book, and then we hired writers, like episodic freelance writers, to write new books in the series, and we put out 1 a month. And it was very successful. And as Alexandra said, Amazon watches these things. And one day I got a phone call saying, this Dead Man thing? That's a great idea. It's doing really well, but we think it would do better if we published it.
Right.
So Amazon took it over, and we've done 30 books, I think, so far, and published every month. We also did hard paperbacks, and we did audiobooks. We've done Kindle Worlds versions. It's been fabulous. And I've since done books for Thomas and Mercer's imprint. But at the same time, I'm still self-publishing my own work, and I'm published by Penguin Putnam, and I'm writing best-selling books for Random House. You can now be a writer who's published in multiple different ways. You can publish on your own, you can publish with Amazon's imprint, you can publish with a New York publishing company, or you can even do what I'm now doing, which is I've teamed up with another very successful author, Joel Goldman. Between the two of us, we've sold 750,000 copies of our own books. We've created a publishing company called Brash Books. We publish the best crime novels in existence. A brash claim, but we think we back it up because all of our authors are award-winning, highly acclaimed authors, and 90% of our titles are out-of-print backlist titles where the authors just don't have the entrepreneurial spirit or whatever to do it themselves, or, to be honest, they're dead. And they're books that I've loved and that are not available anymore, and I've acquired the rights. And we're launching in September with 30 titles, 28 of which are reprints, 2 of which are original books, and we're also publishing original titles. And we have an exclusive arrangement with Amazon for our ebooks. But the point I'm making is, now for an author, for every single one of you in this room, this is the greatest single time to be a novelist. I'll give you one more example. I know an author who used to be, if you got dropped by your publisher, they signed you to a 3-book deal, and your first 2 books sucked or you didn't earn back your advance, you'd be dropped and there'd be a scarlet radioactive letter on you, and you couldn't get picked up by any publisher in America or anywhere else. Even the Galapagos Islands would hate you. And also, once your book fell out of print, it was worthless, had no value, it was a brick. But now, out-of-print books are oil, they're gold, they're valuable, and if someone drops you, okay, fine, I'll self-publish. It's no longer a world controlled by just 6 publishers. It's so wonderful. But as John said earlier, and Joe Conrath said even before that, there is a requirement on you to not write shit. John mentioned the tsunami. I'm going to be a little more brutal. There's a tsunami of swill on Amazon. Absolute garbage. People think just because you can publish with a click, you should. Don't. You need to hire editors. You need to hire good book cover designers and all that. The good news is you're on the same playing field as James Patterson and Janet Ivanovich and Lee Child. That's the good news. That's also the bad news. Readers are going to expect you to be as good as those guys are and have a product that's as good as theirs.
Oh, and if you want to submit to Lee's new imprint, Brash Books, there is a submission link in a video online. Go to www.mysterythrillerbooks, with an S at the end, .com // then the word about.
www.mysterythrillerbooks.com /about. And then all the submission guidelines are there, and there's even a video. Did I say /?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay.
So it's not under Brash Books.
Well, it's that, I don't want to confuse it. It's also www.brash-books.com.
I'm Susan Rohrer, and I started off as a director, and I found my way to writing through directing because I got to the point, I'm very specific about the type of project that I like to work on, the kinds of stories I like to tell, and I found that the only way to assure myself that I was getting the right kind of story, getting the opportunity to tell the stories I wanted to tell, was to write them myself. So I began writing, and I wrote television, movies, and things like that. And then along the way, people would say to me, well, would you ever think about writing a book? Because you sort of write like a novelist. And I always say, no.
Talk closer to your microphone.
Then, after it got to the point in my career where the type of project, the type of movie, I was writing movies of the week, things like that. And well, there really aren't too many more movies of the week going on right now. And so things kind of tapered off. And if you're anything like me, you've gotten some scripts produced, you've gotten some things out there, but there's an even bigger stack on your, virtual shelf in your computer of scripts that didn't get made. And you may even, how many people in this room have a script that you think is your best script, and yet it hasn't gotten made? Okay? Well, I had a lot of those, and I was just, what can I do about it? And so I started looking into getting books done. I got my first book at a major publisher, several steps in, the editors are looking at it, I met with the marketing department, all that kind of stuff. And then finally, I got a call one day from the main editor that I was working with on it, and she said, Susan, I hate to tell you this is awful. We just found out ourselves, but the head of our company came in today and told us all at once that we are having to, unless a person is a star author, we can't take them unless they will buy the first 5,000 copies of their own book personally and mount and underwrite their entire marketing campaign.
Wow.
Do you want to do that? And not having $100,000 to spare to put into my first book, I said I was going to have to withdraw until Amazon. And can I tell you, I love Amazon so much. I don't know about the other people in this room, but I am a confessed recovering technophobe. And the whole idea of learning how to do all of these things was kind of a big deal for me. But for anybody who hasn't done it, who hasn't published on Amazon so far, just know, get in there the first time, do it yourself, push through, you'll be able to do it, and then after you get the first one out there, it's a snap and you just keep going. But it gives you a way to get your stories out there. There's the stories that kind of, they are, like John said, it's like they're your babies, and when your babies aren't being born, it's like you're getting pregnant with twins and triplets and all this, and it's never coming out, and it hurts until you do. And until these unproduced screenplays do have a life on film, this gives them a way to have a life regardless. And it's so liberating and it's so satisfying to be able to get your stories out there. And then the plus is, on my copyright page, it says that the screenplay is available and how a person can get in touch with me about that. So that, who knows, it may end up getting the screenplay sold, but even if it doesn't, the novel is out there selling all over the world. So I'm not one of these people who would be in the category of saying, oh, I've sold hundreds of thousands of books or whatever, but I've made a nice little tidy cottage industry out of it. Something that I can do on zero budget, if I choose. And you can too.
No?
Hi, I'm Noel Hynd. I got into writing a way that I don't think anybody else did up here. My father was a true crime writer in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, so I sort of went into the family business. I had my first book published so long ago that I wrote it on a manual typewriter, which some of you will be able to relate to. It was called Revenge. It was published in 1975, 76. I got very lucky. The film rights were sold to 20th Century Fox, and then I got lucky again because the film never got made. Flashing forward a few years, by around the year 2000, I had published 17 books with major companies like Doubleday in New York, and I had also sold 3 screenplays. So looking at those numbers, a consensus had kind of emerged on my work as to which was going better. In any event, I had been published by Kensington most recently, and as frequently happens with relationships with publishers, it deteriorated over the years. But I did something very smart at the end of my relationship with them. I got back all of my rights, which is key to everybody in this room. It's been mentioned before. It can't be mentioned so many times. Guard your rights. It's one of the things I like so much about Amazon. They allow you to keep your rights. In any case, I then got a contract in around 2004 or 5 with a division of HarperCollins, and I was writing some mysteries, adventure stories for them, and then they came to me at the end of 2009 and asked whether they could put the electronic files out free to readers on Kindle, which was just developing, as you'll recall, at the time. That promotion got me on something like 80 to 100,000 Kindles right before Christmas at 2009. I looked into how electronic publishing worked and, like people before me, realized, hey, I can do this. So I started doing it. I got my whole backlist up. I spent about 6 weeks per book, re-editing, restructuring it for a more modern audience. But suddenly a book, one of my titles called Flowers from Berlin, has been on the Amazon political thrillers list consecutively for about 2.5 years now. That is a book that Kensington gave back to me as, quote, worthless, unquote. Well, they had a very charming lawyer in there. Around 1998. So to, again, not to beat a dead horse, but to say things that I think Lee said and other people here, that backlist, even if your publisher didn't like it, even if a book was turned down, again, if it's quality, it can now find a place. Flashing forward a little farther now, I did so well so nicely publishing my own stuff that I started to look around and started to publish some other people's stuff, including graphic novels, which I'm importing from Europe, in some cases translating from French to English myself. So I started my wife and I, who's hiding in this room, I'm not even going to look her direction right now, but she's here, she's looking at me right now. We started our own company called Red Cat Tales, Tales, and we're publishing. We have a website which is struggling along, but you can find it. I'll be happy to give you a card if you come corral me after this. But we're publishing genre fiction and graphic novels. The genre fiction I'm not really looking at that much right now because we have enough for the next year. Graphic novels, I'm interested in developing stories with artists and writers, so feel free to get in touch with me about that.
Noel, if somebody wanted to email you a submission, is there any place they could go on your website? Or?
You could go to the website, which is, I think, www.redcattales.com. Be sure to spell tales the wrong way, Tales, as I said, or just get a card from me before you leave today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Beth Anderson. I'm the publisher at Audible, and I have to say I'm sitting here feeling decidedly underaccomplished. I've written a lot of memos, but I've never published a book or had a screenplay produced. But a lot of memos and a lot of spreadsheets and things like that. But I'm excited to hear people talking about taking stories and taking works and moving them from book to screenplay or screenplay to book or play to book. So, you know, it's all about getting the stories out there. And I guess that's my claim to fame, is that I can help to be a conduit between the creative engines here and the hungry listening public who are eager to fill that time while they're waiting to get through the Lincoln Tunnel or across the 5 or across the George Washington Bridge, to fill them with something other than rage, to fill them with good stories. So happy
We've all
to be
been
here.
talking about ebooks and audiobooks, but John only touched on this briefly. You can also self-publish paperbacks absolutely free through CreateSpace. CreateSpace makes their money by taking a portion of your sales price. I brought some of my brash books, which we're publishing through CreateSpace, to show you that what you can get through CreateSpace is indistinguishable from what New York publishers are doing. You guys can just pass these around. But that's another option. When you publish your own book now, you go on KDP, the Kindle Direct platform. Is that what they're calling it? KDP? And you can publish your ebook. You can also at the same time do a beautiful trade paperback, and then you can go to ACX and have the audiobook done. So you are now the master of your own literary and storytelling domain.
Yep.
CreateSpace is not free, though. Let's be clear about that.
It's like $10 if you want to do your own, and the cost of galleys.
If you
want to
do
do
all
your
of
own
your
imprint.
interior formatting and all of that, but it
Yeah.
can be considerably more expensive than that. It's still worth it. I just want to say it's not entirely free.
I'm just going to share my story for a second, just because I think a lot of you are probably in the same boat that I was in. I did not write books all through my career. I did not have a backlist. What I had was a writing job on a show that got canceled. And then we had the strike, we had the economy just tank, it was horrible. So what I was doing is I was writing a book basically for me, because it was something I was doing for me, it amused me, and honestly I was doing it because Janet Ivanovich hadn't put out a new Stephanie Plum book, so I was writing my own.
I'll tell Janet to put more out faster for you.
So when there was no work to be had and unemployment ran out, and I had this manuscript, and we did the last panel, and I thought, well, let me publish it. So at least if nothing else, I'll be able to know what questions to ask you guys. So I published it. Since then, it's been downloaded over 150,000 times, and it's made $85,000 so far. And it was just the one book. So, you know, everybody can do this. Everybody can do this.
And I would also emphasize, if you can do it yourself and publish it, but if you can get it Amazon published, it's even better. Because, for instance, with the singles, my thing came out Father's Day last year, I guess it was, because it was about being a nerd dad with a super jock son, and who's now sweating it out at a tennis tournament in Northridge. He plays baseball 5 days a week and all that kind of stuff. He's 9. But I know. Started when he was 7. But so this guy said to me, look, I will promote this not just this Father's Day, but every Father's Day going forward. And also, he said, just emailed me recently saying, oh, they're going to use your cover as the wallpaper for the new Kindle Fire or whatever it is. I'm ashamed to say I don't have a Kindle, so I don't know what that looks like. But if you can get it, and I had an editor, you know, which which is this guy David Blum in New York who does their original singles. And again, if you don't want to do a full book, the single is also great. It's 25 to 30,000 words. It's not a huge chunk of your life, but you can probably tell the same story that you would potentially tell the same story you could tell in 100,000 words or 200,000 words. But it's just a lot faster. It depends what you want to do. But I would just emphasize if you can pitch, and then the way you do that is you just pitch it to that guy, like you're pitching a magazine article or a TV show or a movie. And if he likes the idea, he will publish it. They'll design the cover, they'll edit it, and then you have them on your side. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. It's a very select program
with Amazon
to get into. Yeah, and Blum is great.
There's a question I'd like to ask. Because part of getting Hollywood interest is how many people are interested in your book. You know, what is your market outside of Hollywood? What's your hook? When you're launching a new book, what strategies do you have if you don't have the branding, you know, like you have your own publishing company? You know, a lot of these people, they'll be launching their first book. What strategies can you give them to maximize their sales and eyeballs on their books? And also maximize interest in Hollywood on their books.
Well, the great thing about digital books is they're absolutely free. There's no storage charge. There's no postage charge. If there's a blog you love or a website you love or there's Amazon reviewers that you trust, you can give them your ebook for free. Just say, here, if you get a chance to read this, I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, you'll spread the word. When I started the Dead Man series, I must have given 200 or 300 copies away free of each title to bloggers and opinion makers and friends, and I figured if I got 15 or 20 reviews out of it, it was fine. And in fact, there's this book Treasure Coast that's being passed around. We're giving it away free right now on our website, the ebook, and I think we've given away 200 or 300 copies already. But there's potentially tens of thousands of sales. So by giving away those books for free, we're creating word of mouth. So when the book's available for sale on September 2nd, there'll be people already leaving reviews. So anyone can do that. John mentioned the countdown promotions. That's a great way to do it. Someone else in the audience mentioned websites, the Kindle Daily News. There's a bunch of different sites that you can buy advertising with to get your word out, to key mailing lists of mystery fans or romance fans.
For me, the KDP Select has been a real great factor for me in getting my book out there. They allow you to give your book away for free 5 days within the 90-day period of enrollment. And, you know, when you first think of that, it thinks, why would I, you know, I want to be paid for my writing. But it's like free advertising. I mean, think how much a traditional publisher puts into advertising when they launch a book, and just think of it that way. My first novel that I put out there, I was stunned at how many free downloads. It's just like copies flying out, the thousands of copies. Okay, so then my promo ends. The next morning I wake up and I've sold 278 copies. Sold. And then it's selling 100 copies a day, 50 copies a day. And, you know, eventually it tapers off of that high. But it really helped me launch a book as a person who didn't really have a big platform or a big publisher behind me.
Let me be really clear about how this works, though, because a lot of people, first of all, you don't need to be on any other platform but Amazon, and when you start out, it's just a waste of time, really. I know one person, maybe, who has done well on Barnes & Noble. It used to be that if you wrote romance, if anyone does that, anyone, romance? Okay, just a few, because that's the biggest selling genre, just so you know that. So if you are writing romance, then check out Barnes & Noble and see if that's still viable. But you really don't need to do anything but Amazon, and you must do one of those Amazon promotions, and you want to be exclusive to Amazon so that you get the benefit of their promotion and their algorithm. when you give away books for free, and you need to really set up this strategy, you don't want to just put it out there and see what happens. What you want to do is study the Kindle boards and how people do these promotions. It's all out there. Go to my website. I write about how you do it. It changes all the time, so you need to know what's happening right now. But if you set up a promotion, advertise it through BookBub. That's the only place that will get you these numbers right now. That didn't used to be true. It wasn't true 2 years ago. It was someone else. So you have to be current on it. Advertise through BookBub. If they accept you, you put it out on Amazon. It's for free 3 to 5 days. You get 80,000 downloads, hopefully. And then when it goes back to paid, the Amazon algorithm puts you up there in paid sales. They count a percentage of each of those free things as a paid sale. So you launch onto the bestseller charts if you have done your research and done your homework. And that's how every single author I know who has made the great numbers on Amazon has done it. There's an absolute strategy. It doesn't work all the time, but there is a strategy, and you need to know what that is. And you need to not put your book out there until you know what that strategy is.
I can't stress, though, enough something she said about how this changes all the time.
It does.
It used to be putting your book out there for free would get you... The algorithm for Amazon works on its own. It used to be, I'm going to get some of these numbers wrong, but I think I gave my book away for free in December of 2009, and I think I gave away something like 65,000 copies. And when my book came back to paid in January, it was the #1 book on Amazon. I got this big bump from the free sales. Well, that happened so much that Amazon adjusted the algorithm so you didn't get as big of a post-free bump. And they keep doing that. They keep adjusting the algorithm. So, as she said, the playing field changes, the rules change. Today, BookBub is the place to go. A year ago, it was Kindle Nation or Kindle.
Yeah.
But these things
Pixel still does it
so fast that you really have to stay on top of the game. And what's great is there's a bunch of bloggers like her and Joe Conrath and Barry Eisler, occasionally me, who will discuss all the different strategies and what's working, what's not. As John said, the self-published authors are such a giving group. Hugh Howey has been commissioning studies out of his own pocket on Kindle sales trends that have been invaluable. So there's a great community out there waiting to help you, and it's free.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying BookBug or BookBub?
BookBub.
B-U-B.
Yes.
What is the advantage of going through one of you guys' four publishers? What does that give?
What is the advantage of going through one of your publishing imprints instead of her publishing by herself?
It's very easy right now to put your book on Amazon. Anyone can do it. You could do it right now sitting here during this presentation. And you can have your daughter do a cover for you, and you can have your mom copy edit your book, and you can format it for the Kindle yourself or let the Kindle platform do it for you, and call yourself a published author, and your book's not going to be found. You could still spend $500 on a BookBub ad and give your book away for free, and you're still not going to do any sales. There are some people who just aren't programmed, and that's not an insult. Some people just don't have the entrepreneurial spirit. In a way, I've done it all for you already. I've found book cover designers, I've found copy editors, proofreaders, formatters, social media marketing experts, all the people who can save you the trouble of having to do it yourself. You're not going to be getting 70% royalty that you'd get from Amazon, but what good is 70% of nothing? You know, you're buying. You got to be very careful. There are a lot of vanity press sharks out there who will take advantage of your desperation, naivete, and soak you for a lot of money. Don't fall for Author Solutions and organizations like that will screw you over.
Author House, iLibris, yeah.
And be aware, what Lee has is an exclusive deal with Amazon. He's going straight to the source. Also, Lee is so entrenched in the mystery and thriller community that we would all stone him if he fucked over our friends. So I can already say it's not like Hollywood. We take care of our people. She's a book person.
No, did you have something to say about publishing? Because I saw you.
Well, two different things. One, just give you a case in point of a person that I published. published a title called Death Waltz in Vienna. It was out for about, it was written by a friend of mine who was a retired diplomat. What I'm getting to is the BookBub numbers. It was out for maybe 4 or 5 months. We got some reasonably good reader reviews. And then I purchased for him a ad on BookBub, which you all should go and look at if you're not unfamiliar with, to give free copies away. And in about 10 days, maybe less, 7 days, it gave away 28,000 copies, which got that author, who was completely new, this was his first book, onto 28,000 Kindles. Ever since then, the book has been maintaining itself reasonably well on Amazon and has had pretty good sales, certainly good for starting up from nothing. The other thing I just wanted to mention is don't forget the editing process. As someone I think mentioned this morning, it might have been Beth, there are a lot of good editors who were at publishing companies up until 4 or 5 years ago who are now editing freelance. You've got to be careful and really check out some of the credentials. If you need guidance, get in touch with me, or I presume Lee. We all know some pretty decent people. But you can't put something out that you've read it over and you think it's great and all your friends think it's great. It needs a professional eye. It also will need professional proofreading. That's a big mistake that I made when I put my first books up. And it also needs professional formatting, which is not that expensive. And again, we can direct you to people who do that.
But what he's saying about editors is true. The editor we're using on Brash Books was my editor at Penguin Putnam. There are the people designing our covers designed my covers at Penguin Putnam and elsewhere. The same freelancers that the publishers in New York are using, you can use too. And she was asking about why would I have you publish my book instead of me publishing it myself. There's a book floating around here that I use as an example, Sleeping Dog. Dick Lotke's book came out. It was a huge success in paperback and hardcover, fell out of print, and he decided to self-publish it when he got the rights back, and it was tanking. Just wasn't doing well despite all his best efforts. And he came to me in September at BoucherCon and said, God, how are you and Joel doing what you do? Could you do that for me? And he was sort of the inspiration for Joel and I to start our publishing company. It was, yeah, we could do it for you. And then there was another author over here in this conversation, well, could you do it for me? And so we're now doing it for Dick Lotke, and Dick is thrilled. He says, it's the best cover I've ever had. It's the best presentation I've ever had. Yes, he's getting less than he would be getting if he had done it himself. I'm not going to tell you. No, because we're like a normal publishing company in that we negotiate with each author. I can tell you we are doing less than 70%, but a hell of a lot better than what publishing companies are offering. Because as she said, I'm an author too. I'm working with other authors. The last thing I'm going to do is screw my own people. And word would get around, oh, Lee's screwing everybody.
Oh, instant.
Yes, Claire.
Oh, also, actually, let me add to that, which is that, the reason that I said 50 out of 300 books are good for film or television is because they've been through this process. They've been through an editor. They've been through an assistant editor. There have been other eyes on it. The problem with screenplays is people write them and send them out and think they're fabulous, and no one's looked at them. So the reason the books are so good is because they have all those other eyeballs seeing them ahead of time.
Claire. Mm-hmm.
I know you're using the term BookBub, Ron. Can you explain to me that it's not for...
Okay, let me, I'll do a brief explanation here. When you're promoting your books, there's 2 ways to promote it. You can do free days via Amazon Select, and you purchase ads. BookBub is right now the largest, but it's very difficult to get on there. And
it's a mailing list. BookBub is a mailing list.
It's a mailing list, and they send out, and it's got all the books listed, little, graphics, and they can generate a lot of sales. They do free books, and they do bargain books. If you do the Kindle Countdown, you can purchase an ad. They're going to be more expensive. A lot of the places where you purchase ads won't let you go over 99 cents. They won't sell you an ad if your book is over 99 cents. BookBub will, but they will charge you a lot of money for that ad. But because they're the #1 place right now, they're very, 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 very picky. So if you're just launching a book, the best thing I think you can do is do the free days. That's how I did it to build up Tilly. Run ads on the free days, because for the free days, you don't need to have the reviews that you do want reviews to cushion it in case you wind up somebody, just downloaded it, hates the genre, and is going to slap you with a 1-star review. But when you start to get into the Kindle Countdown and the paid downloads, you're going to need reviews. You need at least 10 reviews for some places.
And you need
some places
many
20.
more than that.
For
yeah.
BookBub, you're looking at 3-digit reviews for the popular genres. Jess?
Yeah, a couple things. Get ready to pay. My book in ebook, Kindle, and hardcover, with the cover formatting, all that, great deal. Cost me about $500. Copy editor for a 106,000 word book,
106,000 words?
$2,200.
Yeah.
Professional editor, Hillel Black, been around for 170 years. He was Sidney Sheldon's editor at one time. To go through the book and give me invaluable advice, $3,500. So even though you can publish it pretty much for free, getting it from that to that point when it is not shit is going to cost you some money.
I would say worth every darn penny.
Pardon?
I would say worth every penny. Let's say Hollywood comes and says, wow, that would make a great movie. I'll give you $75,000 for the option. I'll give you $750,000 if we get it made. I think $3,000 is worth it.
Oh yeah, it is. The other thing about BookBub, I've got over 40 reviews now, 4.5 out of 5 stars on Amazon, with Christiana doing my promotion and all her contacts and knowing everything.
That's because you just missed that window.
Arrested on BookBub.
BookBub is now up to 3 digits. You have to have over 100 reviews, especially in popular genres. It used to be 40 to 60 reviews would get you in, but not anymore.
And I haven't seen your book, and I don't assume I'm not talking about your book. BookBub doesn't just look at reviews. They also look at the content, and they look at the cover. If the cover looks like it was designed on Photoshop with photos from your vacation to London, they're not going to pick up your book, even if it has 300 positive reviews. They've gotten very, very snooty. But you can, it's possible, I'm not advocating this, but you can self-publish your book using the cover designer that is free through CreateSpace. You can find people to copy edit for you. You can do it on the cheap. I don't recommend it, but you can do it. It's not necessary, but I'm going to echo what she said. It's absolutely money well spent. You can find a good copy editor through the Copy Editors Guild. There's like a union for newspaper and magazine and publishing copy editors. That's where I initially found mine. And I believe the base price is $25 an hour. And depending on how bad your book is, by bad I mean how heavy the copy editing has to be, that determines how many hours the copy editor has to spend on your book for a thorough copy edit. I would also, just in general, not be putting out books at 106,000 words. No, I think the sweet spot is 65,000 words, and the sweet spot in terms of pricing is $2.99 or $3.99. I think if you have a book that's 106,000 words, you're creating a problem for yourself right there.
Yeah, pricing is really important, really important.
How important are social media like Facebook and Twitter?
Vastly important, vastly important. There's a couple of strategies I don't want to spend all of this time talking about BookBub. Some of the strategies that I know about are, Lee mentioned BoucherCon. You don't know as screenwriters that there's like a movable feast of conventions for different genres. And John Fine was talking about Romance Writers of America being so great. I don't write, well, I have written a couple of romances sort of on the side, because I just get roped into these things. But they are the best professional management. Yeah, Lane, she's seen it. But if you're looking for any of these people, you find them at the bar at these conventions. There's a
She's absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm serious. So you need to know that BoucherCon, Thriller Fest, Left Coast Crime over on this side,
Actually, BoucherCon's in Long Beach in November. It's the World Mystery Conference. And every major publisher, every major mystery author, every major freelance editor, freelance cover artist, they're all going to be at that BoucherCon conference.
BOUCHER.
And the Left Coast Crimes in Portland this year, Portland, Oregon.
Thriller Fest.
That's in New York next month.
And though I go talk about log lines, I troll all of these conferences. I'm looking for authors. I'm looking for people with material. Absolutely.
Unlike Hollywood, again, authors can meet agents and editors at those things. They come to do business with their authors because we're spread out all over the U.S. So those are the hubs to meet those people. You can just go into pitch sessions, or you can go to the bar. Always go to the bar.
I'd just add, too, that if you're not a mystery or thriller writer or a romance writer, which I'm not, though I happen to be working on a mystery show right now, you know, your story can be any story. I mean, mine was a memoir, it was a personal story. A friend of mine had an idea he wanted to do a magazine article about Lee Harvey Oswald's early life and his weird relationship with his mother, which was kind of like a Norman Batesy thing. And I said, you should do it as a Kindle single. He did. It came out. So it can be anything. It can be like a reported, nonfiction story. It can be a personal memoir-y story. It can be any kind of story you want. Definitely the world of genres is more codified and more well-organized. But you don't have to do that kind of book to be successful in this world.
Honestly, in talking about the marketing of all of this, honestly, I look for a hook. I don't care what the genre is at all. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if it's a drama or a thriller because I look for material for so many people, for so many companies and so many actors and actresses and whatnot, that the requests are all over the map. So I'm looking for a hook. Can I sell it in a sentence? If I can sell it in a sentence, I can probably sell it. So the actual genre doesn't matter. And in fact, right now, as you probably know, memoirs and true stories, huge right now, huge. So it's not necessarily, you don't have to have that particular genre or whatever that's popular at the moment. In fact, don't chase a trend because it'll be gone by the time you're done writing. But it absolutely, it's about that hook. Can you sell it in a sentence, whatever the genre is?
She said something that I wanted to pick up on about screenplays. If you have your favorite screenplay that's never been produced in your drawer, you are sitting on the most detailed book outline you could possibly write.
Yeah, that's true.
Dead Man series that I did for first self-published, then I did for Amazon, was an unsold pilot that Bill and I wrote that we've been pitching for years. We ended up writing on spec. The initial 12 stories we hired writers to do were the 12 episode ideas we had. And it became a book series instead of a TV series. It may still become a TV series someday. A novel I did for Thomas and Mercer, King City, was a spec pilot script. I novelized my own pilot. So if you've got a screenplay in your drawer, you're a long way towards writing that. I mean, not only you can write the book now. I mean, you've got most of the hard work done. You've got the dialogue, you've got the locations, the plotting. Now you just got to write the prose and figure out point of view for each scene.
Let me jump on that for a minute and say, I say this a lot to authors. You do not want to write your own screenplay. And let me tell you exactly why. What's going to get it made is if I take that book in and we get an A-list screenwriter who just got $300,000 for doing Hunger Games, that's the person who's going to get it made into a movie. If you write it, probably going to end up sitting on a shelf.
Let me underscore that. I wrote a book with Janet Ivanovich called The Heist, debuted at number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. I've written and produced hundreds of television shows. I took myself completely out of it because of exactly what she said. I want the hottest guy in television now pitching that pilot to Hollywood. I'm starting enough to know I'm not that guy. So you want someone else, and you also want to get the hell out of their way. I've optioned my books, even though I'm a TV writer and screenwriter, I've optioned my books to others, and other people have done the scripts, and I give them my 1 or 2 notes, but it's their project. You get the hell out. Their job is not to do a transcription of your book. Their job is to make a good movie that may not match your book entirely. The best thing you can do is exactly what she said. Let somebody who's really hot and has a unique vision run with your story and get out of its way.
I've just been on the set of The Duff, which I don't know if you guys know, but that was 4 years ago. It got published, and I picked it up even before it was published. And they're shooting right now with McGee in Atlanta, and I was just there last night. And I spent a lot of time talking to the author about how many changes were made. There are huge changes to that book. Huge. And it's really for odd reasons. For example, the biggest reason is the book itself, The Duff, which, by the way, is Designated Ugly Fat Friend, best title ever, is a little bit R-rated. And CBS Films picked it up for theatrical release and said, we want to do a PG-13 movie. So much of the book had to change. Having nothing to do with the book itself. The book's great. But there are so many elements in it that are not PG-13. So realistically, you just have to know whatever you end up optioning to them, that's going to change, period. It may change a little, it may change a lot, but it will definitely change.
The other thing you have to keep in mind is that even though we're screenwriters, don't make the mistake I did. The first time I sat down to try to turn one of my screenplays into a novel, I just started writing it. I didn't really look into the different aspects of the craft. And what I ended up having to do was go back and then rewrite everything, because there are certain conventions in screenwriting that don't translate directly to novel writing, like point of view, like the fact that you can't be head hopping, cross-cutting doesn't work, montages doesn't work, voiceovers are harder to manage, and there are all kinds of things that I had to learn, just like I had to learn the craft of screenwriting. I needed to take some time to learn the craft of novelization. There is a good book out there written by a screenwriter and a novelist called Novelizations, How to Adapt Your Script into a Movie, by Renee Gutteridge and Cheryl McKay. And that's available on Amazon for $5.99 if you... And I don't have any financial tie to that book. I just know it's a good book that I've read on the subject. Pardon?
Oh, you would say how to translate your screenplay into a movie. You mean
Or into a novel. Sorry.
Steve. Yeah, Lee, on the new publishing company, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to.
I don't want to. Sorry.
But and I'm with a publisher he was a writer, and right on David Neal Wilson. Okay, and he did the same thing several years ago. But now that you're a publisher and you're going to do it for them, but are you paying for the cover design? Are you paying for the editor?
Absolutely.
And then that's just...
That's our job. We're the publishers. That's what we do to earn our percentage of the royalties. That's what a publisher does. But as I said before, most of what we're publishing are reprints of out-of-print books, and we've acquired books from estates and things. But of course, we're paying for all of that. That's what we can't justify taking a chunk of the royalties if we're not investing anything in the book. You've invested in writing it. Our job now is to make sure it looks fantastic and gets into readers' hands and
it sells really well.
Okay.
But not for you, Steve.
I know.
Yes.
Wait, I wouldn't come to you.
You want to go? The question was asked about social media, and the answer was something about meeting somebody at a party.
Oh, I'm sorry. I often do that.
Specifically.
Yeah.
You spent too much time at the bar.
I've been there. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, we haven't heard anything about that type of promotion from anybody, from any source. Has that been successful? Is it not successful?
Hugely.
Facebook, Goodreads. Everyone should be on Goodreads right now. You have to build these things up. You can establish presences on these things immediately. I've seen the numbers over and over again. Facebook is the one site that you have to be on statistically. If you look at the pie chart, it's Facebook and then this little sliver of everybody else. But Pinterest, it has to be something that you like, and you have to not be just promoting your book all the time. But also I found that I didn't do much Facebook until I started self-publishing, but suddenly when my Huntress series took off, I now have 107,000 Facebook followers. Just practically overnight, I got that that kind of number when I published first. So it's symbiotic. You get more Facebook followers when you publish and you're out there. But a website, you need an author website. You need to do the social media. You need to. One really great idea I know is Marketing Monday, that you take one day a week, but it doesn't have to be Monday, but just one day a week that all you do is social media so that you can build up your presence or do your website or figure out Goodreads, which is not very intuitive. But if you start posting reviews on Goodreads, then you start gathering a following there who will then follow you to Facebook when you have a book out. So yeah, social media is really important, and my followers on Facebook share my posts when the 1% of posts that I do when a book is on sale or a book comes out. People share it all over the place. I know that it bumps my numbers. And you need to, readers want to talk to authors. They want to engage with you. So you need to make yourself available to your readers.
I find a lot of material on Facebook, to be honest with you.
Oh.
People talking about books. Literally, I just did a movie for Lifetime called The Choking Game, which is coming out July 26th as I push it. And that book is by Diana Lopez called Choke. And I found out about that book because they were talking about it on Facebook. And I was like, wow, if all these people are talking about this book, I should find out what it is. And I called her agent, and I got a copy, and the rest, as they say, is history. So sometimes you just never know. Literally, I go to tootle around and see who's chatting about what books, and, oh, I read this, or I loved that, or they take a picture of the cover, or whatever. And slowly but surely you think, well, I better check that out.
The great thing about Facebook is that, the great thing about being a writer in today's world is that your readership isn't an anonymous, mass. You actually develop a relationship with them. And the easiest way to develop it is through Facebook, where, you're talking to them about day-to-day stuff. You can put up, cover options, and they can give you an opinion. They start to get invested in you as a writer, and so they're invested in everything you write. So this is like your army. When you release a new book, it's your Facebook people who are going to be telling everybody about the new release, and they're going to be fueling your initial sales. So I think it's really important to have a Facebook author page.
Okay, so you're talking about a Facebook page as opposed to just being on Facebook.
Well,
It's a little different. You can have a Facebook page, but what I did and what a lot of people I know do is, because nobody comes to your Facebook page unless you're right, so you want to max out your personal page first and open it up to everyone, and stop posting pictures of your kids. My God, you guys, don't you read the news? Your food. And your food. But do your own private Facebook, profile. Yeah, right, I know. And then what I did was merge my two things, and that was really useful in driving those up. But first you have to build your 5,000 limit on your person.
I keep mine separate.
Actually doing a Facebook page for your series, so you could do histories.
She wants to know if you would do a Facebook page for your series, a Facebook page for your book, as opposed to a Facebook page for the author. And that would be crazy, though, if you're doing a Facebook page for every book you write.
Yeah, but for the series, I am going to do that when it launches in the fall, because I've heard that people have really... This is another marketing strategy, and you're not going to like to hear this. But if you do have extra scripts on something and you can make it a series, the big marketing... strategy right now is release 3 books at once. So don't put your first book up, right? And then you've got to be dedicated, right? But this is what Thomas and Mercer is doing with me. I have to wait, and it's hard because I'm used to doing things right away, but they're putting all 3 of my new book out with my 2 that I already did.
It's the Netflix approach. We're doing it with Brash. We bought a series of books by an author who's passed away, Jack Lynch, that won the Seamus and Edgar Awards. Great private eye novels, came out in the 80s. We have 9 of them. I think we're releasing 6 or 7 of them in September, just to get people really, for the binge reading.
Binge reading, it's big.
However, you don't have to do that. I mean, seriously, because that's always been the wisdom, even way back, of releasing multiple books. But for some of us, if you're going to wait till you have multiple books written, you might be waiting 20 years or something. So I'm a big fan of, if I never released that first book, that's $85,000 that I wouldn't have. So...
Christy, you are such an exception to that. However, she's a good exception to follow. Usually one book isn't going to get you very far. But now, and Beth has been very quiet over here, but I'm going to field this over to her, doing an Audible version of your book, if you have just one book, is about the best marketing I can think of to do right now. Because you've already written the book, right? So why not have that extra huge audiobook audience talking about your book on Goodreads and on Facebook and everything. So if you are a single title author, I really strongly suggest that you go through the very easy ACX program, audition your narrator. I just did this with Huntress Moon. you can't even believe how good these guys are and how easy the program is to get that rolling. So that's a great marketing strategy for one book.
And it gives you a second launch to start talking about, something brand new to start posting on your social media. And you can include clips and say, hey, I just posted my part of my manuscript, and already 45 people have auditioned, or hey, I just listened to the first 3 auditions, or I'm listening to 20 different people, and so you can keep your fans informed. And somebody said, using social media is not about promoting, it's about informing and sharing information. So this gives you a whole nother arsenal of information about your wares to promote and to talk about.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to put something in about the Facebook page, and then I'll pass it to you. I keep mine separate because on my personal Facebook page, I have a lot of writers. So I'm talking nuts and bolts in terms of writing, as well as personal family stuff. Whereas my author page, that's all the fans, and they want to know about, they want to know about your life, they want to know about random things, so you have a little bit of a barrier, so they're not exactly knowing where you live and, the names of, your kid and what school they go to.
I was just going to add that the people who aren't going to be super excited to hear you're spending all your time on an ebook are your agents. And because, my friend Rob Long, who was at the time running Cheers, and told his agent he wanted to write a book, and she said, if you want $800, I'll give you $800. So that's pretty much the agent's attitude to the book world. Similar with me, my thing was optioned because a guy named David Kissinger, who works for Conan O'Brien, read my Kindle single, liked it, and then started developing it. It was not because my agent was selling it. So there's that little mini hurdle. They're not known for being savvy about multiple platforms.
Yes.
How many people have a book that was published and you're wondering about the rights of something that was published, like, let's say, 5-7 more years ago? Okay. Do you know how to get your rights back? It's pretty easy. If it's out of print, send a certified letter to the publisher. Don't admit that you don't have a contract, that you don't have a copy of the contract anymore, because that happens all the time. But most likely, the original, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but the original publishing contracts had a license to publish called one thing or another in there, but they ran usually for maybe 5 to 7, sometimes 8 or 9 years. Most likely, that thing is dead now. It's out of print. But you have to prove that you asked for the rights back. So you send a certified letter, be sure to get a return receipt, and then file it away. You might have to wait 6 months or so, but then those rights are back to you as long as the contract doesn't say otherwise. It's a pretty easy process, but you have to go through it.
I'm going to interrupt just because I've been in the mire of this now for a year with my various authors. Publishers have begun to realize routinely granting reversion of rights is giving away money that's in their pockets. They now realize that there's gold in the backlist. And and they are going through the fine print of your contract. You better hope you have a copy. If you don't, I would actually tell them to send you one, because many of them have a term, 7 years and it's back to you, or we have to sell X number of copies. But most contracts say, when you request the reversion of rights, we have 6 months to either revert the rights or publish a new edition of your book. So there is an author whose books we negotiated to license for Brash Books. She signed the contract with us. She contacted her agent, her publisher for the reversion of rights. Her book's been out of print for 25 years. She asked for the reversion of rights, and the publisher said, great news, we're publishing the book in July. In print, on demand, and ebook. And she couldn't get out of it. And HarperCollins just won a lawsuit against Open Road Media. Open Road Media is a publishing company that specializes in out-of-print books. And there was an out-of-print book that they picked up that has sold huge amounts of copies. And HarperCollins says you don't have the right to do the ebook because it says in our contract that we have computer storage and retrieval. And Open Road said that's not e-publishing. E-publishing didn't exist when you had that term in your contract. It meant just keeping a copy on the computer. So we're going to keep publishing. To make a long story short, Open Road lost that lawsuit. So now HarperCollins has sent letters to hundreds of authors saying, if it says computer retrieval and storage, we have your ebook rights. So people who got like a $2,000 advance have just found out that they've sold their books forever to HarperCollins. So publishers are getting brutal now about the reversion of rights. And now that we have print on demand, they can take a book and say, and look at the numbers, or look at, do we want to be competing against this book on the Kindle or not? We'll just do a print-on-demand copy just to keep it away from Lee or Noel or whomever. So it's not as easy as it used to be. Publishers have gotten savvy. But I would say this. If you have a book that was published, absolutely do what he said and send a certified letter Monday to your publisher and get that process started, because it is your book. You should know right now whether they're going to, and if they say they want to keep it, make them produce the contract and the clause that shows that they have the right to do it. I'm going through this right now on a daily basis with my authors, and publishers will lie. They'll say, we have the right to do the ebook. It's in the contract. Well, send me a copy of the contract. Well, it's in storage. Get it out of storage, I'll wait. And they don't often have it. So I'm just saying, it's not the friendly thing it used to be. It used to be like what happened to someone else who said this here. Oh, your book, you said it. Yeah, your book's a piece of crap. Good luck with it. Now they know even the crap is gold.
But some of the contracts are so old, like anything probably before 2001, that they might not have foreseen electronic publishing. So in those cases, it tends to not be covered. At least those cases that I've seen.
It's that computer storage and retrieval that'll get you, and we have 6 months to issue a new edition. Now that they have the opportunity to do print on demand, and they have their files anyway, it costs them nothing to hit that button. And they don't mind screwing you just for the sake of screwing you. They've been pretty brutal. I mean, this female author was in tears.
I'm going to interrupt. Beth, you wanted to say something?
I just want to say, while you're writing that letter tomorrow and mailing it on Monday, to get your reversion of rights, ask for your audio rights back, too, if they haven't produced it. Yeah. And they're a little bit less likely to say, oh, okay, we'll do the audio, because they're not using ACX, it will cost them $10,000 to produce the audio. So if they don't think they're going to recoup that, they're more likely, it's going to be an easier argument for you to get your audio rights back, and then you can go to ACX.
Should ask for all rights back,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Well, and let me tell you, the silver lining is that 9 times out of 10, your publisher did not have your performance rights, TV, film, all of that good stuff. Most of the people I deal with are agents for authors, because the publishers don't have those rights. The publishers had maybe 5% of those rights for their authors. So all of the actual agents are the ones who held on to those performance rights, because also back in the day, the publishers didn't want to be in TV and film. They didn't care. They were like, yeah, sure, keep your performance rights. And so if you check, 9 times out of 10, either your agent has your performance rights or they've reverted back to you. And all we do when we pursue is we look for what they call a clear chain of title to make sure that we can go back and also get the book. And we are the ones who will deal with HarperCollins or whoever it is to say, hey, now we're pursuing the performance rights, so now we need to talk to you as the publisher and get a sign-off and all that good stuff.
This may be too inside baseball, but stepping on what Beth said, also check into your foreign rights, because the German market is huge. If your publisher sold the German rights, for instance, to another publisher, and it's out of print in Germany, the publisher most likely over there doesn't have the rights to the translation anymore. You can actually go to the translator and they own the copyright on that translation of your book, and that saves you a fortune in translation, and you can put your book right into the German market and start making money. So you have a real asset if you have a book that was published and has gone out of print.
I have a question for Beth, actually, speaking of agents, because for people who weren't here in the morning, Audible is becoming a signatory, in the process of becoming a signatory, so they have a new program they're working on. Will the WGA writers need to go through their agents to submit, or can they submit directly to Audible?
Either way will work fine. Either way.
A little question. Suppose you have a laissez-faire publisher, meaning that he sends you a contract, okay? He published your book, but prior to the publishing of it, you wanted some changes in the contract. And in his email, he said, it's okay, everything's okay. And you never actually signed a contract. So what would you say and your book is out there, and you're pretty happy about certain things. But what would you say about the leverage that the author would have? Could the author have freedom since the author does not have a contract?
I'm not a lawyer, so I can't answer that question for you, but I can say that if you want to publish your book through Amazon or CreateSpace, and it's a book that's been previously published, Amazon and CreateSpace will require you to supply the reversion of rights letter from the previous publisher to prove you have the clear chain of title to be republishing that book. That protects you. So you're going to have to get something in writing from that guy.
I'm on Amazon. I'm on Amazon. That's the point is, but publisher, as I said, is laissez-faire.
You should also check with your attorney because there are cases that are argued based on oral contracts, things like that. Kind of a common law understanding.
Yes,
in here. Very quick question. How much time do you spend writing versus promoting your writing now?
Oh my gosh, marketing can become a huge time suck. It's so addictive.
Yeah, and then in interacting with your fan base and all of that, it sounds fantastic, but when do you find the time to actually write?
That's why I was saying Marketing Mondays, that if you limit it to one day, then I get much more marketing done and much more writing done if I do that. And I have to, every time I say it aloud, to remind myself that that's what I need to do. Because, and this is why I'm so happy to be handing off my series to Thomas and Mercer so I can write another series and keep that one going. Once you have a lot of books out, it's a lot to juggle.
The bottom line is writing a damn good book. I have a friend who got sucked into that like a drug addiction. He started spending so much time on Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, Google+, all these things that he wasn't writing books anymore. And he went cold turkey. I'm not doing any of that stuff anymore. I'm just writing books. And I started to fall into that trap myself. And I basically hired a company to do all the things that don't require a personal touch. Putting the cover up on Pinterest or retweeting news about a new book that's coming out. I still do the personal stuff myself, but I'll take a Sunday morning or something. But it's worth the money to me to pay a professional company to do it and decide whether my time should be spent on Pinterest or Instagram or Google Plus or Goodreads or Facebook. There's so many now, and YouTube. You could become a full-time promoter of your own work. And by the way, no one likes a full-time promoter of their own work who's only talking about buy, read. You have to be careful about that, too. We both know authors who spend all their time promoting, and you just want to strangle them. I've been at the Bouchercon bar saying, I'm not going to buy your freaking book. Let's just have a conversation. How's your wife? Tell me about something besides your new book.
What I do is I have an office that has no internet. So in the mornings I go to the office and I write. And then in the afternoons I go home and I work on marketing. And I right now, because I don't have a Thomas and Mercer or a budget where I can hire people, I'm doing it 7 days a week. And I just split the day between the two.
I have two hopefully quick questions. The first one is, I appreciate what you said about being open to these genres, but I just want to know statistically, how well do literary novels do in the e-publishing world versus mystery or other genres? And the second question has to do with copyright. Audible said that they you own the copyright. What if it's published
for an original production? If you're posting an audio book to ACX, then the rights holder and would own that copyright.
But not for the book if it's already published on Amazon.
Right. With an audiobook, there's a P copyright for the production and a C copyright for the underlying work. And generally, the author holds the C copyright, unless for some reason your publisher does. And the P copyright would also be the rights holders in the case of ACX.
Hold on, Marie was having...
I have a quick question going back to reversion of rights. Has anybody had experience with, for instance, if you have a screenplay that you wrote it as a screenplay, you'd love to novelize it, let's say it's in turnaround at a company, has anybody had any experience trying to get reversion of rights with that?
I have. What I did is I had the Guild look at my contract, and there's a separation fee that the studio has to pay. If they haven't paid the separation, you have the literary rights. So I actually gave the Guild all my contracts for every pilot and TV movie I've ever written, and was pleased to see I had the literary rights to everything. So yeah, you definitely have, and your guild will do that for you. You don't have to
We
hire
have
a lawyer.
reversion too. The books revert back.
I mean, she's talking about a screenplay, like a pilot or.
Yeah, like for instance, if I wanted to get a screenplay back in order to novelize it, in order to show it to someone like yourself, you know, I mean,
Well, it's a case-by-case basis. Lee is absolutely right. Go to call guild contracts. They love doing these things for you. This is what they're there for. If Lisa Anderson is still here, she's just amazing with this stuff. But also, what year was it? 1997. Oh, okay. Then, unfortunately, we got in a much better reversion clause in 2004. So that's going to depend on what kind of asshole the studio wants to be about it.
Kat, hold on. They have against it. You know, how much money have they put into it? That's another issue.
Yeah,
They put a lot of money into it.
But it's not like getting the script back. You
Even
should get the
script-wise.
reversion in your contract, but a lot of times... They do it back then? Yeah.
Kat,
I've
what was
always
the
put
first
in my
part of your
contract that I
sentence
have
or
the
your
book
question?
rights.
Because I didn't hear it.
The first part of the question was about the statistics for literary novels in the e-publishing world. How well do they do?
How well do literary novels do in the e-publishing world? I mean, ebooks, just in general, are phenomenal in all genres, including literary fiction.
Christiana was answered this morning. The gentleman from Amazon said that's the lowest, but they're assuming it's going to go up.
Judging by the rates charged by the people who carry the email advertising, literary fiction is the cheapest ads to buy. So, and their numbers would suggest that that's the smallest mailing list. If you apply that to the general population, it's
Actually,
not. Go ahead.
if you look at BookBub, they have a chart. And the chart will show the genre, the cost of the ad, but also how many subscribers are specifically interested in that particular genre. So you can see, you know, in terms of, because they have the data there for what, 750,000 people, you can see how it breaks out.
Well, just the other day I noticed that thrillers, they have a mailing list now for something like 1.2 million, and literary fiction is down around 225,000.
However, you guys don't pigeon yourself as literary fiction writers. Sell it as a romance. I mean, find the other genres that you can categorize it as and use those key words. It's up to you to define what kind of book you're writing. So define it in something that you can actually say, oh, well, it's literary, but it's romance, like my friend Diane Chamberlain, who is making a fortune in the UK and here, writing literary that can be sold as romance, and a lot of people do that.
You have a question?
I exclusively listen to audiobooks on Audible, and I get 3 a month. I drive hours and hours around Los Angeles every week, so I want to hear things. I want to hear books. Are you expecting, specifically for Audible, are you expecting the books that you do for your original content to be produced as books, or can they just be produced as original content as audio programs?
Yes, we would like.
Can we repeat questions?
Sure. Sure. So the question was from a devoted audiobook lover who's listening to about 3 books a month as she's driving around LA. I assume you're going somewhere. You're not just driving to listen. And so
It's just to listen to the Audible books.
Because there's a way to use less gas, but so that's great. Thank you for doing that. The question was, are we looking for original books or material that is not book-based, I think. And yes, we're always glad to have more books and books that have been produced as print or ebooks or have not been produced as print or ebooks or will happen simultaneously. But the program I'm talking about today is specifically non-book based material, so new original productions. We're not sure what to call them, so if this Creative Brain Trust has an idea other than original audio programs we've heard, movies for the ear and things like that, but we're looking for something to call it, so help.
And if they want to submit, it was at originals@audible.com?
Original singular. Original
at audible.com.
And you said, 5 hours, it could be 1 5-hour thing or like 5 1-hour.
Correct, yep. 5 hour minimum, yep.
Right, the program you'd be pitching to Audible would be either a 1 5-hour or 5 1-hours put together.
Or 10 half hours.
Or 10
something
half
like
hours.
that. At minimum.
Robert?
We're glad to have something longer.
Could you guys talk about actually selling your material to Hollywood? I know a number of you had success doing that.
Selling material to Hollywood.
You know, did you just get contacted because you had a high-profile ebook or Kindle single, or did somebody make a concerted effort to make a sale, like an agent or you? I'd like to hear some of those stories, for educational purposes.
Yeah. How did you sell your book to Hollywood? What makes books attractive to Hollywood?
I could speak to that. So with mine, it came out as a Kindle single. At the same time, I met a guy, a TV writer named Lou Schneider, and he really liked the idea, and he said, why don't we pitch this as a TV show? So sort of simultaneously, he and I, and he'd worked with Conan's company, he and I went to them and said, we have this underlying material, we could develop a TV show based on it. Are you interested? They read it, they were, so that's how it happened. So it's kind of a weird hybrid of both the material plus a quasi-pitch of how this could be a family comedy. And it helped that he had worked on Raymond for 20 years or whatever, and was more seasoned comedy writer than I was at the time. So that was it. But I think you could also just ultimately you try to get your agent to get excited about the material and sell it. It's underlying material. It's like stand-up used to be the hot underlying material. Then it became blogs were the hot underlying material. There's no reason why Kindle, digital publishing couldn't be the hot underlying material. But you have to get your agents to grasp that and possibly even to read it.
My film agent.
That's its own panel, getting an agent to read your material.
Well, now they can read the reviews. They can read the reviews on your book and decide it's a great thing, and they can sell it. Yes.
Noel, if I sell you a graphic novel and you publish it digitally, is there any decision to make a hard copy that you would sell in a bookstore? What's the dynamic to get an actual hard copy in stores? Or are graphic novels no longer really part of a hard copy world? Well, they're trying to be part of the hard copy world. There's a limited number of bookstores that will actually carry them. Frankly, in my opinion, the future of graphic novels, which are also known as comics, is really going to be digital. So the hard copy is almost a luxury. It's almost like an ego trip for the authors. I'll give you a very quick case in point. When I was in Paris last fall, I went into the French publisher Glenat and negotiated for the rights to one of their bande dessinée, which I'm translating and which we're publishing this summer at Comic-Con. They had me guarantee a 500 copy first printing, which is really, really minimal. I'm doing that with the local printer. Hopefully, we will sell that out, but really what we're going to be focusing on is publishing it for pads and readers. So that's kind of where that is. I'm kind of feeling my way along with this one because I'm doing that for the first time also.
Lane, I wanted to go back to the Hollywood question. I know you're very specific in the types of hooks you're looking for. And remember, people, she said book proposals too, not just books, right?
That's right. I always talk about the log line. A lot of when I go to conferences, I talk about log lines. And it's really because I'm always saying to authors, what's your book about? What's your book about? And I really don't want to hear the 20-minute plot. I really want to hear a one-sentence, something that has some punch and tells me why your particular book is unique, because that's the most important thing, and that's how I pick up my material as I walk around saying, what's your book about, what's your book about, what's your book about, and I'm literally looking for what makes it unique, what about it can I sell that doesn't sound like the other 5 million books out there in the same genre with the same themes. And so that's why the actual genre doesn't matter to me, because if you start telling me, oh, it's a thriller with a spy, I mean, how many times have we heard that? 5 million times. That doesn't help me sell it. But like I just picked up the Derek Stillwater novels, which I'm doing with Film Engine, and I picked it up because it's your typical spy thriller, blah, blah, blah. But the lead is even though he's got a background in bio, weapons, and whatever the heck, he's superstitious as all get out. He's got like the whatever St. Christopher medal and the juju beads and the whatever. Like that's the hook, is that he's not your typical, Tom Cruise going to get out there and do it. He is, but he's also terrified of absolutely everything. So that's really what I look for. What is that? I actually have a book coming out. Did I tell you that? I have a book coming out called Loglines, The Art of Selling Your Story in a Single Sentence. That'll be out next year. Because I got tired of trying to explain to authors how to sell their own material. You guys need to learn how to do this yourself. You're your own marketing team, and you have to have that answer. When someone says, what's your book about? You better be able to spit it out there real fast, because just like the rest of Hollywood, I have the attention span of a gnat. So it's got to be quick. When I pick up the phone and call Peter Chernin, I got 5 seconds to sell it. I can't be saying, well, it's this story about this woman who, forget it, you're done. I got 2 seconds on the phone to say, this is why you should buy this. This is the coolest thing ever. Here's my 1-sentence pitch. And it's not, Jaws meets Geisha Girl or whatever. It's not that. That used to be the pitch. We don't do that anymore in my world.
A short movie.
It's a very short movie. But that also doesn't sell it. You can say that, but that
Kindle
doesn't
single.
tell me anything about your particular book. What makes your book unique? What makes your story stand out on that bookshelf with the other 5 million books in the same genre? That's what I want to know. Specifically, don't tease me with the back cover blurb and be like, ooh, it's sneaky and nifty. I don't care about that. Give me the specifics so I know what makes your book different. It's only those specifics that makes your story different from everybody else's.
Beth, is it the same for you? In terms of people who want to
Certainly want to know
submit?
what the story is about, yeah. I think especially in this new original audio area, we need to figure out how you're going to tell the story in this format. So we're going to need some script and some idea of how you're going to carry it out.
And by the way, that log line will come in so handy for query letters for agents and editors, and also in your marketing. It's your very first sentence at the top of your
Amazon
marketing
page. On your
plan.
product
Yeah.
page on Amazon.
That's right.
Or your Google ad, Google AdWords.
Right.
Well, we are over time. Oh, here.
I had one tiny thing, which is, despite what I said about agents, this is one way to make yourself stand out from every other person out there pitching a TV show or a movie, and all you have is your 20 minutes and notes. You've got something concrete. That you do that, and then it doesn't sell, and then you've lost it forever. Spend as much time writing one of these Kindle singles as you would preparing a pitch. So the B story of my book was, the reason I had all this time to coach my kid in baseball was because I was selling nothing and having the worst year ever since we moved from New York to LA. And then the happy ending was the guy in the book decides he's going to write a book about coaching his kid and all the stuff he learned from the world of sports that he'd ignored his whole life. So that was before I'd actually sold it. So I was hoping for that happy ending, which I then generated from writing the book. But what I wanted to just say is that it is a way to make yourself stand out from every other screenwriter in LA, because you have something solid to show for your ideas.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for being on the panel. Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
My earlier books were done.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much.
All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And let me wait for it to reset. Okay, 1, 2, big